I'm glad you could join us. Today is Tuesday, the 7th of August, the day after the celebration of Emancipation Day in the Bahamas. The actual date is the 1st of August. It was on that date that the British freed the African slaves that they had brought to the Americas beginning from the 17th century. It is a shameful episode in the history of mankind and in the history of Europe. The Europeans who did it and their African collaborators ought to be condemned for it. The question of reparations from the British government is something that ought to be formally explored by all CARICOM governments. I want to congratulate the Progressive Liberal Action Network, known as PLAN, in Freeport, headed by Sean Bowe, for organizing the street demonstrations last week in Freeport, Grand Bahama, on Thursday, the 2nd of August. The demonstration was held to protest the continued victimization of Bahamians by the Free National Movement. During the demonstration that took place in front of the government administration complex in Freeport, there were 3 ministers of the government upstairs. They didn't come down to meet with the protesters. 2 days later, though, in the biased press in Freeport, they were blasting away with the most uncharitable language about the demonstrators, not dealing with the message, but attacking the demonstrators. Some of the demonstrators wore paper bags over their heads because they were afraid of being victimized by the government for standing up for their rights. There is a climate of fear and intimidation throughout the service. At the same time this was happening, we received reports that Hubert Ingram, the now Prime Minister, went up to Grand Key, Abaco, where he was crowned, get this, the King of Abaco. We think he's the king of something else, but those words can't be said here. The TV showed him crying as he received the honor. Such an honor is not deserved in the face of the crudeness of his administration, the boorishness of his behavior in the Parliament, and the continued victimization of Bahamian voters throughout the country. What is even more remarkable is the boasting by the Minister of Works in the House of Assembly that the government had stopped and was reviewing some $90 million worth of contracts approved by the PLP administration before they left office. What a thing. Imagine a government minister boasting about how the F&M had taken deliberate steps to stop projects. The net effect of what the F&M has done is to slow this economy down to a crawl. The construction jobs are at a minimum, and this hurts the poorest people. But never mind that. The F&M has no concern for poor people. Now I'd like to turn for a minute to the remarks of Senator Jerome Fitzgerald of the PLP, who was able to reveal in his intervention in the Senate last week a shocking conflict of interest with Brent Simonet, the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister. Mr. Simonet had to admit, under questioning from the former Prime Minister Perry Christie in the House of Assembly, that he, Mr. Simonet, chaired a meeting of interested parties from Bay Street about moving the container port. Mr. Simonet is one of those who has an interest in the new container port because he owns substantial lands on the waterfront of Bay Street. He and his business friends of Bay Street don't want the port to move for good financial reasons. Yet, there are minutes of Mr. Simonet hosting a meeting where he is chair of the meeting to discuss moving the port to Arawak Key. If you move the port to Arawak Key, that will mean moving the vendors from the fish fry. Bay Street is again proposing to push out the poor. This stuff is scary. So, here's what's happening in the Bahamas. There is fear and intimidation. There is victimization of the poor. There's a slowing down of the economy, hurting the poor. National health insurance has been abandoned, hurting the poor. And the rich man is securing himself and his friends by scuttling the plans to move the port to the south of New Providence. Someone needs to get me a fiddle. Thanks for joining us. I hope you'll join us the next time.